Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Career Talks with Isabella Sunshine. And today I have a very special guest. I have Tom. And Tom has spent his entire career as a mechanic. So I thought you would be the perfect person, Tom, to tell us about what it's like to have a career as a mechanic. Sound good?
Fine with me.
All right, so I'm going to ask Tom quite a few questions, and hopefully by the end of this interview, you'll have a better idea of whether this career might be the one for you. Welcome to Career Talks, where we dive deep into different career options. I interview people from all walks of life who have chosen a variety of careers. I ask the easy questions, but I also don't shy away from the hard questions. I want to give you an honest outlook about whether these career choices will be right for you. So sit back, grab a beverage, and listen in to Career Talks. All right, let's launch right in. Why did you become a mechanic?
Boy, I never wanted to get my hands dirty. Now, that said, the family business, they had a garage in Winnipeg. And previous to that, I grew up in California, and my father had an excavating company, rock crushing company, etc. I guess I was never afraid of getting my hands dirty, but I never liked it. And then as you get older, it's something that you're familiar with, and you start in on it.
That's fair enough. So when you were young, did you like repairing things? Did that intrigue you? I one time I picked up, I think I took it out of the garbage, an intercom system, and I fiddled around with it, and I got it working, which my mother and father were a little bit angry about because, of course, I set up one in their bedroom and one in my bedroom, and etc. But anyways, I think, and I did car models and stuff like that. So I suppose there was some talent for working with my hands. Sounds like it. So what would you say to someone in today's day and age who is thinking about being a mechanic as a career?
It actually is a very, very good career choice. It's highly technical now, okay? It requires lots of education. I learned, like when I got my mechanics license, and the only reason I got a mechanics license was because a coworker kind of mentored me a little bit and explained to me that you're not going to get anywhere in this world without some kind of a license. So I went to mechanics school at Red River Community College, and I wrote a test before because I didn't have the education. But I passed the test, and they said you can go ahead, you can take 2 years courses in 1 year if you want to and put it through, but you have to take they recommended I take all 4 years. So in a couple of years I was licensed, and of course that translated into a little bit of money. Right now you have to have a lot of physics, way more than what I have now. You have to be almost a scientist. It's really technical.
Electronics?
Oh, very, very heavy on electronics, heavy on computerization, operating tools that interface with the electronics on the car in order to find out what's wrong with it. Things are so expensive now that with the electronics that you have to be right on perfect in your diagnosis. You can't just buy a part, put it on, oh, that's not it.
I was watching another YouTube video this morning about being a mechanic, and that was interesting because the guy was saying he's kind of a career mechanic as well. And he was saying before it would take you, an hour to diagnose the problem and maybe 5 hours to fix it. But now, sometimes with all the electronic systems, it takes 5 hours to figure out what it is and then 5 minutes to fix it. So in terms of training then, what do you actually need today?
Well, I believe you'd need a minimum of grade 12.
probably some type of science background if you want to go into it a little deeper, like university level. But grade 12 is more likely the basic minimum that you need.
Yeah. What about startup costs? Do I need to, let's say I want to open a shop, do I need to invest $10,000 into tools, or what does that look like?
Well, if you're talking about opening up a shop, you need way more than basic hand tools.
Or if I'm in a garage, do I have to bring my own tools with me to the job? Is that part of my requirements?
Yes, if you usually, okay, that's changing a little bit too, because when I was in the trade, you brought your tools, and every year you had to pay, $2,000 or $3,000 for upgrades on tools and replacements and new tools that were required to do jobs, and you didn't get anything back. You couldn't write it off or anything else. So you had to come up with creative ways of being able to take advantage of any kind of tax write-offs that there were. When Canada went metric, they did allow you a tax write-off for your metric tools. So that helped a little bit.
Okay, that's fair.
Now is that the companies themselves are supplying tools. So if you go into a dealership especially, every bay has a set of tools that the mechanic is responsible for. So if he loses his job, changes, or gets fired, whatever, there's an inventory that has to be taken care of. And the expensive diagnostic tools, the electronic stuff, are owned by the dealership as well. So
that's fair. Thinking about your career as a mechanic, what would you say are your three favorite things about this job?
Well, funny, I think most mechanics get pleasure out of helping people. We want to help people. That's basically, we have the skill and the knowledge, and we would like to help people, but we also have to make a living, support families, etc. Challenges, the way the technology changes, it's interesting. You have to follow through, you have to read lots, you have to learn lots. And when you've done that and you've repaired a vehicle that was nobody else could fix, and you fix it, or you repair it, that's a big boost to your ego. And then I would also say meeting a number of people, like the number of people that you meet and you make good friends. As a self-employed mechanic, you develop a clientele. They know you, they trust you, and you make a pretty good living out of it.
That's fair. What would you say are the negatives, the cons about being a mechanic?
Well, one of the things that always bothered me about the trade is that you were portrayed as being a grease monkey, for lack of a better word. And, generally speaking, you weren't too bright. And that was the only kind of job you could get. So when you saw movies on television or series on televisions and they portrayed a mechanic, if he wasn't a mass murderer, okay, he was a little bit shady, and not the highest part of society, okay. And that always bothered me, because this trade takes a lot of thinking. It takes intelligence. It takes a lot of knowledge, and I always felt that mechanics know more than a doctor. I'm sorry, but I mean, I really feel that way, that auto mechanics is a harder trade than being a doctor. That said...
You are a car doctor. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. But that said, now you see what the trade has changed into now is specialists. So you go into a dealership and there's a transmission guy, there's a dash guy, there's a wheel guy, there's a suspension guy,
Yeah.
And they just specialize on that one thing, and they don't have a super general knowledge anymore of the vehicles. But again, the technology is changing so fast in these vehicles that it's almost impossible. Well, it is impossible, really, to know everything about every vehicle. You have to have databases.
Yeah.
You have to subscribe to databases, etc.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
You put the
development.
VIN in and everything else. You put the
Yeah.
complaint in, and then you follow.
That was one of my next questions, was the specialty areas. So in school then you don't learn all the things anymore. You might have to specialize in something, or like would you have to train? You have to be an apprentice, right?
Yeah, that's an apprenticeship, generally 4 years or 5 years, depending on the province.
Okay.
You get a basic knowledge, and you get the background of different things. But at 2 years after you're in the trade, your knowledge is done. You have to relearn it all.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
well,
I generally speaking, like I subscribe to a couple of different programs. Now YouTube is becoming more and more valuable for auto mechanics, but you have to really be careful about YouTube, because it's not always going to lead you down the path of repair. There's lots of anybody can put something on YouTube, okay, and they don't really have to know what they're talking about, you know.
True.
But there's hints, okay, on YouTube, and I subscribe to a program called Identifix, and in that program you put in the vehicle's VIN number, the ID of the vehicle, and you choose your complaint, as it were, and it takes you to the most likely things and how to diagnose it and how to repair it. It's kind of following a flow chart.
That's kind of neat, actually. That's pretty clever. What about, so let's say there's a 16-year-old student, he's just finishing high school today, and he wants to be a mechanic. Would you recommend this career path today? It sounds like
I would definitely recommend it. I think the only thing, of course, it can be hard on your body.
Okay.
You know, again, the era that I grew up in, it was especially hard on your body.
Okay.
The newer guys now, they have all this different specialized equipment. You're not lifting something heavy. Of course, workman's compensation plans and all this other stuff, you know, they've done a lot to help. Whereas back in my day, you basically wore your body out.
Okay. Wow.
Lots of mechanics left the trade in their 40s.
Yeah, I know one who ended up doing that too, because so many broken arms, just those tools, the strain on
arthritis
the arms.
and tennis elbow, as they call it, and shoulder injuries.
Wow.
And you're standing on concrete floors a lot of times.
And I think you're breathing in, you have contact with chemicals too, so that's something to think about, I think, as well from a health standpoint. So
back in the day, when I was a mechanic and working at it, I know I would go to bigger shops and the guys were wearing gloves and masks and safety goggles, and I thought, what a bunch of sissies. What a bunch of sissies.
Yeah.
That's nowadays, no. You wear protective equipment, and I think you'll find that if you weren't wearing protective equipment, that you would be talked to by the management.
Yeah, that's fair.
Even loud noise now. You're supposed to announce when you're going to make a loud noise. You announce it to everybody around you.
Okay.
And a lot of guys even wear
protective
ear protection, and sometimes nowadays, of course, I wear hearing aids, but nowadays they have these devices in their ears so they can listen to music and.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. But you
that's hearing protection. You know.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
I don't know whether that is hearing protection.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. That's fair. So my next question, since you're an expert, is how can I, as a customer, tell a good mechanic from someone I should maybe be running away from?
Well, you know, in my career as an automotive technician, as a mechanic, I have seen very, very few crooked mechanics or crooked shops. Very few. But communication and miscommunication is one of the biggest problems. Now, women, especially when they talk to mechanics, they're leery of being told a story. Okay,
this is true.
I would suspect a personal feeling about the fellow that you're talking to, and recognizing the sales techniques, especially in the big dealerships and the big shops and that, you know, they have skill at selling, and a lot of times it's overselling.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, thinking about your career then, would you say being a mechanic today, is it a get rich quick thing, or is it, you build up a clientele, or how does that work in terms of, can someone starting out who's brand new, fresh out of college or school, can they I imagine they can make a living, but can you tell me more about what they can expect?
Well, automotive technicians, basically mechanics are one thing, but really and truly the ones that are making money are called automotive technicians because it's all technical. It's a good job. It's not paid like a doctor or a medical specialist or anything else, but it's right up there with many of the trades. Now, if I was going to rank something, okay, I would say that plumbers and electricians make more money than mechanics. One of the things about mechanics, though, is you can use your skills. I have to be careful how I word this. You can use your skills at home. And all mechanics have friends and buddies that they fix their cars, etc. I used to say when I was younger, when you're a mechanic, you don't have any friends. Because
why?
Everybody's your friend when you're working on their car and they say thank you, but they don't pay you.
Well,
is
that common? Right, I guess people.
You've worked,
Yeah.
So that's how I've kind of run my life. Is if I'm doing something back when I was a young guy, I would work on my friends' cars, but I always got compensated some way. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so that's what you want. And I mean, you would call it under the table money back in those days, But and I think a lot of the guys are still doing pretty good that way. I want to elaborate on that a little bit. There's guys working in their backyards who are qualified mechanics, and they're working for probably the same money that they get at their job, but they're not paying any taxes on it. If you want to do that work at home, make it legal, up the rate. I mean, the shops are charging, right now in Kelowna, I want to say about $150 an hour, and I think there's a lot of people who say that's cheap. So if you're doing the work for somebody and you're doing a good job, you form a business, use your tax write-offs, and charge accordingly, and keep records and everything else, and maybe charge them $100 an hour. You're still making pretty good money.
That's some good advice. No,
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's the way it should be. Make it legal.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate that you've taken lots of time today to share some thoughts. So any final thoughts or things that we haven't covered about, this whole career as a mechanic?
Take care of yourself. Again, if you are buying your own tools, keep track of them. Form that business. Write the tools off. I can tell you that, I shouldn't say too much, but to form a business and write off your tools, get your depreciation, do things legal. And I always feel that being self-employed is the better way to do it. For me, anyways.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot just in watching some YouTube stuff about mechanics. There's some real benefits to working your own hours in your own garage and building up that customer base over the years. And I heard too that you pretty much don't need to advertise, because word of mouth, if you do good work, then you're golden. You've got a client base.
That's right.
Yeah.
Advertising, it's all word of mouth, really, and it goes fast.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate, thank you so much, Tom, for taking the time today to share this with our YouTube audience. And thank you for tuning in. And I hope, of course, as with any career, you want to make sure you do your own research. Look into the costs of training, any startup costs, where you want to see your life go. So remember, always take it with a grain of salt. But words of wisdom from someone with experience are always so valuable. So do give what Tom said today some thought. And thank you again, Tom, for all of your wisdom that you've shared with us. And if you're interested, I've got lots of other videos about careers that you can check out. There's one I did recently with a police officer from the Australian Outback, so I'll pop the link up to that as soon as it's ready. And have yourself a great day.